All right, how's it going, everyone? In this video, I'm going to be building an HTML thesaurus. This project is going to be really basic and simple, so if you are new at programming or new at web development, this will be a great video to watch because we'll be showing you a couple of different things, like how to dynamically change stuff in the DOM, how to do fetch requests, etc. Before I start, just remember, if you do like this content, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon because we're going to have a lot more content like this in the future, which will help you become a better web developer and programmer. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a basic HTML page here, and the plan is to just write some script to kind of fetch some data from a backend based on what the user typed into an input box, and then display that in, I don't know, maybe a table or a column or something. But we want them to be able to type in a word and basically get back all the synonyms for that word and display them. So you should know what a thesaurus is. If you don't, feel free to look it up. But looking around, I found a thesaurus online at this link. And if you log in with Facebook, you're able to create an API key. I don't know if this is like supposed to be private or not, but don't abuse it if you're watching this video. Make your own, don't use mine, but whatever, you can try to use mine if you need to. But the cool thing about this is once you make an API key, they have this tab that says JavaScript, and they tell you what URL you need to hit. So let me zoom into that. Basically, this is the URL, and I'm going to be cutting off this callback stuff because we don't want it to do a callback. We just want the raw JSON back. So this is their little REST API structure. The important piece here, though, is word equals piece. And you can change piece to be whatever the word is that's typed into an input box. And then key equals test only is the key that you saw on the other page that we're going to have to change. So that's really all you need to know about this. Don't worry about any of this other stuff. So let's go back to the actual request and see what we get back. So in here, this is that same URL with the word changed to difficult and the key set to my little API key. And if you see here, it gives you back a object that has a responses property. It has an array of different objects in it, and it has a list of different synonyms for the word you typed in. It also has an antonym in it for some reason. Like, this isn't the best API. This is more of just I'm showing you how to do this, but this API needs some work. I don't know why it's returning antonyms for a synonym thesaurus, but anyway, we're just going to print that out and pretend like it's a synonym. So yeah, how do we do this? How do we do this in JavaScript? Well, I'm going to start off with trying to display a couple of these. So let's just, this is our page right here. And if I load up my terminal down here, we can start working on it. All right, so going back to my actual HTML code, I could say online thesaurus. Let's just add a title to the page just to make it look a little better. And we want to add an input box. So I'll say input, type of text, go back. We have an input box here. And we could add a label to that as well. Let's see. I could type in word for the ID here, and then label for word. Input a word. All right, so I think there's a better way to do label. I'll look that up later. But basically, we got a label here that says input a word. They can type in a word, and then we want a button. And what we could do here, I could wrap this all in a form probably. Word form. And then I could just put a callback listener on that and say when that form submits, all we do is figure out what the value is of word, make the HTTP request using request, get back the data, and then display it. So I will go back to the button I was working on and print enter here, and now we have a button. I'll come back and try to style this a little bit before I end this tutorial, but for right now, we're just going to focus on the DOM. So after you submit your form, you will get some results. So I'm going to say, I don't know how to spell real well, so let's go back here and say synonyms for your word. Save that, go back. All right, so we got a title down here called synonyms for your word that we probably only want to show up when you get results back. But what we can do is I'm just going to put a paragraph tag, and we're just going to do it this way. But basically, when we get our results back, I'll copy a couple of these. And for some reason, we don't, it has like all this stuff in here. Let's just get rid of all these. We don't need these. And then delete some of the stuff. See how this looks. Okay, so we have some words printed out. You know, we could probably put this in a list. Maybe it's better if we put it in a list. Bear with me, I'm just going to do a couple of these. I'll do 3 of these. We got hard, we got ambitious, we got challenging. And I promise we'll come back here and we'll make this all dynamic in a second, but that's pretty much the HTML we want to build out. Now we just want to make it dynamic based on whatever word you entered. So we'll have this hide or show depending on if you actually entered something. And then we'll do some other stuff. So let's style it a little bit first, just so it looks a little bit more pleasant. So up here, I created an index CSS. And what I can do is I can go back here and say link CSS. And I can call it index CSS, and that'll load in my link. And let's just go ahead and add a bunch of padding to the body. That kind of moves over to a little bit. And let's just do a couple of various things. So let's see, padding to the input box. I could say the height of the input box is 100. Font size of that is like 24. And that's too, whoa. Maybe no height. That's better. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Could add a background color. Just add it like a gray, why not? E. So we got a little bit of a gray background. Input a word. I am not sure why H1 is so teeny. I thought H1 is supposed to be, oh wait, that's an input. So let's make the label bold. Font weight bold. And let's see. I think what people do sometimes is they put the input inside the actual label. I don't know. It's not too important. That's not the main takeaway of this video. So, okay, so what we need to do here is let's make the button a little bit bigger. So if you're not familiar with CSS, you can just attach styles to various components. So these can be classes, IDs, or directly the DOM elements themselves. And since this is a one-page small application, I'm not worrying about adding classes. I'm just styling the buttons directly because, well, we only have a single button on this page. If that changes, if you decide to expand upon this and add more stuff, you should probably go back and add classes to everything so you can style them properly. But let's try to make the button a little bit bigger. I'll make it blue. We got like a light blue, a light sky blue. Color white, border 1 pixel, solid black. Let's see how this looks. Still not sure why the font size is not increasing. Oh yes, I am, because I didn't put pixels. I just put a number. All right, let's try 34. Yeah, that's good enough, right? That looks like a beautiful, beautiful app. I think we should make the color black. All right, anyway, let's get to the fun part, right? So the fun part is you type in a word, and it needs to do a request and then replace all of this. So on the form itself, you can say on submit, and inside on submit, you could just call a callback function, so on submit. And we basically, this is one way to do it. So on your DOM elements directly, you can put callback functions on lists like event listeners. And this will call whatever function on your JavaScript called onSubmit if it exists. So it doesn't exist yet. So let's go into our script tag. I'll make a function called onSubmit. And one thing I want to do is I want to have it take in the argument e, and then I can say e.prevent default. Now, if you don't add this, your form is going to refresh your page because typically forms are built for doing like server-side postbacks. So typically in the form, you'll do like action, you'll give it a different URL, and then when you actually submit the form, it'll push data to a new URL, which will then render some new data. But we're not doing that stuff, so let's just make sure that this doesn't break our app. And it's still refreshing our page. So that's unfortunate. So I'm going to Google it, because I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. You're supposed to do e.prevent default. On submit, return, validate my form. Maybe that's how you're supposed to do it. Or you could do it this way. Well, I think the main thing I need to do is I forgot to call it like a function. So I think you do need to do that. All the other stuff is probably not important. I guess it is important. All right, it's not submitting anymore. I think I just need to pass the indent to it. Yeah, okay. Well, I was on the right track. I just totally forgot to call it, and I forgot to pass it the event. So now that we're here, let's just go back and do some stuff. So to verify that we are getting here, we could type form submitted as a console log, and we can print that out. Okay, so every time I click enter, it says form submitted. And what we want to do is we want to grab the value of that input. So I can say, I believe it's on the event. So const input is equal to e.target.input. Print that out just to verify though, because there's always a chance I'm wrong about stuff. And it looks like I am. So let's just print out e. I think it's current target. I have a hunch it's current target. Yeah, my hunch is completely wrong. Okay, so let's print out E and see if there's anything special on that. If not, I can always just grab the form directly. All right, so we have form.target, and there should be like a value or something, or current value. Current target's null. Target has this. You know what? It's probably because I'm thinking that the input's an input. Okay. Take a step back. I'm getting confused. So let's actually just fetch the input. So we have an input here with an ID of word. And I'm just going to say const input is equal to document.getElementById, pass it word, print out what input is. And that, I hope, should have a value. think it's value. If not, I'm going to go to Stack Overflow because I obviously can't remember. Okay, there we go. There we have it. We got it to work finally. So when they input something and click the submit button, we need to fetch all the synonyms from that API. I go back and just copy this URL. We can call a function called fetch, which is built into your browser if you're on the latest browsers. And we can pass it that URL, and this returns a promise, which means that we can do an await on it. So I'm going to go async await results is equal to this, print out the results. And the main thing that we need to do is we need to make sure we tack in the word here. I'm going to change input to word. I'm going to delete this. And at this point, when we run our code, I should be able to click, let's see. Input element. Dot to value. Try that. I hope this isn't a CORS issue. Oh gosh. Alright, so some servers have security set up where you can't hit their API from a JavaScript browser. Let's see, jQuery is a powerful JavaScript library. Okay, so this is the same URL. Okay, let's try this. I think I just need to do HTTPS in here and try that. Alright, there's probably something else going on with the URL. So let me copy this full URL again. This is a different URL. It says for jQuery. We're not using jQuery, and I don't think you should have to, but you never know. Alright, so sorry about that. I pretty much just spun up my own Express service. I have my own endpoint that does that request. Keep getting CORS issues in the front end, so I'm assuming I have to hit it from the back end of my own. I don't know. If you can figure it out, let me know, but I just think this API I'm using sucks. So, with that being said, I have an endpoint I can hit locally now, localhost 3000, and then I can give it a word here in a query string. And that pretty much acts as a proxy to fetch the stuff from the source API to my Express service and sends it back. I said I was only going to teach you basic JavaScript and HTML and CSS, but I guess that's just not possible these days. So going back to what we want, we have all this code that doesn't work because this guy's API is not good. Either that, I'm just not understanding how to use it, even though they gave us examples of how to use it. So I'm going to hit our API here, and I'm going to pass it the word. And we should be able to get the results back now in the console. So if I refresh the page, type in hard or something, or difficult, or let's see what prints out. Oh, we're getting CORS again. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to disable CORS on my backend. I'm installing a package called CORS. I'm going to say app.use CORS. I'm going to save this. I'm going to refresh my server. I'm going to try it again. Finally, we get a response back with data. Okay. Frustration, man. Alright, so in the body, we can say parse json.parse json and results.body, which I think is just parse json.parse. And then we can print out the body here and make sure that that comes back as a, I'll type in a real word. bad. Unexpected token O in JSON. You know what? I think I need to say results.json when using the fetch API. Oh my gosh. We can do this. We can figure this out. Programming should not be hard. So JSON returns a promise. So let's just try this. Try calling that. Print that out. Just keep trying stuff. At this point, why not? Just try everything. All right, we got a response. Okay. So you see here, we have a response. So let's just make an array of words, and I'm going to loop through that response. So I'm going to say for let entry of body dot response, I believe it said, or is it results? Response. And each one of those has a list. So I say words dot push entry dot list dot synonyms dot split on the pipe, because there's a bunch with pipes, and that should give us a bunch of different words here. So if I print that out and refresh my page and type in bad again, we get an array of arrays. So what we actually want to do is say words is equal to dot 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 of that split command, and that'll just basically append my results into that list over and over again. And that needs to be a let. Can't use reassignment with const. Okay. We're gonna get there. Be patient with me. Okay, we got our list of words with these little parentheses. I'm just gonna leave those parentheses in because the tutorial has become too frustrating and I need to go drink my coffee. So what we want to do is for every word that we find, in fact, we could probably just do it here, but I'm just going to loop through every word. So for let const word of words, I'll just say a word because we already defined word up here. What we want to do is basically get this list. So I'll say list, and we want to clear it out. So const unordered list is equal to document.query get element by ID list. I'll say ul.inner HTML is equal to a blank string. And then I want to continuously create list items. So I'll say li is equal to document.create element. Pass in an li. I'll set the inner text of that to our word, and then I'm going to append that to my unordered list. So we clear the list and keep pushing in the new words to that list. So let's see what happens if we do this. I type in a word, click enter. All of the words show up down here in this list. Type in another word, click enter. Those all show up in the list. Now, some things you might want to do is add a spinner to clear out the list and show a spinner while it's trying to fetch stuff, because it could take up to a second or so, it seems. Just some, feedback to the user to know that the application is doing something, instead of it just kind of like freezing for a second and then the new list shows up. But yeah, that is my overcomplicated tutorial / live coding of how to build an online thesaurus. You can come back and try to make this look really nice with styles. You can maybe do like 4 columns here with words if you want, because all these words are running off the screen. And you could bring in like Bootstrap if you wanted to use a better font styles and spacing or grid columns or whatever. Feel free to grab this and do what you want. A little retrospective of this project. If you're using an API, it might work in your browser, but unfortunately, when you actually try to use their API, they have cores enabled for some reason, even though it's a public API. So if they have cores enabled, what you need to do is, at least what I think you need to do, spin up your own Express service, which makes that same request to the backend, and then just forwards the results to your client. The client hits my Express service, the Express service hits the Thesaurus API, and then that comes back with the result. If you know a solution to why I needed to do this, let me know. But I think they have cores enabled on the backend. In fact, I'm not even going to dive into it. It's not that important. If you want to see this project rebuilt using Vue or React, let me know. I could try to show you what it looks like using Vue. It'll probably be a lot easier. The setup won't be easier because you have to install a bunch of stuff. But this part here, the logic where you're creating the DOM list and appending stuff to it, that stuff will be a lot cleaner. And I think that's really all it's going to save us. We didn't need jQuery after all, so goodbye. Yeah, all right, well, thanks for watching. That is my live coding video. If you enjoyed this, if you like watch me struggle with building a really simple HTML website, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon and like the video. And if you have any suggestions of different projects I should work on that are kind of similar to this, that won't take too long, but they kind of cover new topics like AJAX requests or dynamically creating DOM elements, or just something cool that you want me to build that I can try to share for you guys. And I'm going to do more of these live codings because it's easier for me to like record them and publish them without having to run through them and edit everything. It takes a lot of time editing videos. So if you enjoy this kind of stream of consciousness, hitting tons of bugs type of recording, let me know. All right, that wraps it up. Happy coding all.